Okay. Well, hi everybody. This is Joey Donnelly contributing for COVID culture. With me today is Eliza Doyle, a great friend of mine whom I've known since high school and has gone on to have had an amazing career in music and teaching. And I'm really happy to have you here. So welcome, Eliza.
Hi, thanks for having me, Joe.
You bet. So I guess the topic of today's discussion is COVID-19. So if we can just roll back the clock a few months,
Yeah.
tell me about when you first started to hear about this virus and your initial reaction.
Okay, well, actually, I first started hearing about it when I was in Stanley Mission, which is in northern Saskatchewan. I was up there doing music programming, I started a music mentorship program through my experience up there in an artist in residency. I was up there for 5 weeks, and the kids in the community were so enthusiastic. I just thought, what good is a program that lasts 5 weeks and then you leave? Like, that's kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know. I started looking at one-offs, like cultural or music, all these things that we do for like a week or 2 or 5, and then we're out. I kind of started seeing them as kind of, I don't know, just that it doesn't go anywhere. And people in isolated communities are so used to programming coming in and leaving and coming in and leaving. So anyways, I wrote some grants, and I'm kind of doing this music mentorship program where I go in, we teach music, and then I teach people in the community how to teach music. And they love country, old school, country gospel. They tell all these stories about, like, on the trap line, they had one radio station that would go to Laurent, and it would always be like Johnny Cash and Merle Haggard and Mabel, like the Carter family. Like, they just love that Grand Old Opry type thing. So obviously I fell in love with that. I've got banjos, and it's a huge Métis community, so fiddles are big. So anyways, we're doing fiddle stuff up there. Long story short, I had some, there's these grade 3 students, and this one little girl was like so scared about COVID. This was in February. This is where she heard somewhere that it was in Vancouver, and she was like, oh my God, I think I should start wearing a mask in school because of COVID. And I was like, Kirsten, it's in Vancouver. Like, there's no way it's going to come here. And also, like, Stanley Mission is really far, and just don't worry about it. And, sure enough, like, it was, the first week of March. I just finished a girls' rock camp up there, and you just started hearing kind of more about it. And actually, I was supposed to take an all ladies trip to Mexico. We were, the first time ever, my friend's turning 40, and she's like, let's go do a trip. I've never done a trip. I've just had kids and this and that. So we were all planning and saving for a whole year. And the Junos, I had a big show. The Junos were coming to Saskatoon. Mm-hmm. So I kind of left Stanley Mission. I had been up there for like a couple months, and it was the big, like, going to play the Junos and do the Junos, and then on Monday flying to Mexico. And it had kind of been, this thing that had kind of gotten me through winter, looking forward to all this stuff. And then kind of that week, I was like, ladies, I don't know, man. Like, I think, and they're like, no, it's fine. And then the Junos were canceled, and I was like, not fine. So yeah, that's how I heard about it. That was leading up to it. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So you ended up then in Saskatoon. I remember that week because it was that transition right before St. Patrick's Day, right? And
yeah.
And how were people? Did you start to see people wearing masks then too in the city, or?
No. I feel like in Saskatoon, like, that week was really, really big, because I remember, well, actually your sister, Becky, she was like, we were kind of there, the Junos were canceled, and we were just kind of like, just kind of reading the news, and she, she's friends over in Europe, and it's like, yeah, like the universities are closed. We're like, that's never gonna happen here. It's like, yeah, the schools are closed, like the economy, everything's shut down, and it's like, well, that could never happen.
Mhm.
And then by that Friday, the schools were, I think they announced it on the Wednesday, and then by Friday, the schools were closed, and that's when I realized, like, oh, I'm not going back to Stanley Mission for a while, and I hadn't really planned on not going back for a while. Like, I have a place up there, and all the instruments are in the school, and everything was going just. This was the fifth month, September, October, November, December, January, February. This was the seventh month of the program full time. I'd written a grant to get artists up there full time for the mentorship, and things were just like cruising along. We had a couple people from the community teaching and learning how to teach, and I had gotten music as a career in the work experience accredited course. I had got that into the high school, which is like, I just like snuck it in there. And so that started at the end of January. So that was going. I had, kids were like working at the radio station and helping out with the after school program with the elementary. And it just kind of was like, everything was cruising really, really well. And it's just kind of, it's just a bit at a standstill, I guess.
So how did you keep in touch with like your colleagues and the students back then, or make that transition?
Yeah, well, I've been doing video kind of Skype lessons with some of them.
Oh yeah.
I think now it's nice because I mean it's a huge outdoor culture, lots of trapping and fishing and just being outside. Like they Stanley Mission is right on the edge of the Churchill River. It is just absolutely beautiful. So I mean, now that there's the ice has broken up and you can kind of get going, it's nice. But yeah, right at the start, I just I do video calls and that kind of thing, but it was almost harder in a way because I didn't know. I mean, at least now, I guess it's kind of like some reopening, and I can kind of see myself up there in some capacity. But during the intense lockdown and not knowing, it was kind of harder because they'd be, when are you coming up? And oh, this is so exciting. And I'm like, don't know. And it wasn't even safe, like for even the people who were teaching, who were learning how to teach, and we had all the instruments. I mean, it was not even safe for them to go see the kids. And then I wanted to organize this big, because not everybody has devices or internet to be able to carry on these lessons. So there was a couple kids that I really wanted to keep working with, and it was just not safe to get someone to go knock on the door to ask them if they needed a phone, if I could try to organize SaskTel to get internet. But you really realize how shut off you are from people, especially in the remote communities or underserved populations. Like us, we could just call each other and know how to do video and Zoom and this and that, but it's not it's not everywhere. So
Well, and that's something that really happened in Saskatchewan. There was this term, the far north, that got repeated and repeated by the government, and that included roadblocks, and people from the north were trying to make their medical appointments to Saskatoon and having a lot of trouble just doing did you hear stories like that at all?
Oh yeah, it was incredibly dehumanizing for the people that I know who experienced it. Like, first of all, there was before the outbreak in the Losh, which is on the west, like Stanley Mission is more like east central, and the Losh is more west. So they're separate. I mean, they're close on the latitude, latitude,
Yeah,
longitude,
you got it.
latitude.
You got it.
Nailed it. They're close on the latitude, but quite far away. And there's one road, so you'd have to like dip down. So they're actually quite far away. But when the outbreak happened in the Lodge, we hadn't been hearing about where the cases were, you know, and that was something that the public was calling for, saying like, you know, down in Swift Current. Well, Swift Current is just engulfed in the whole South. You know, there's Regina and then there's the South. So when you guys had a case, it was like, well, where is the case? Is it in Swift Current? Is it far away? Like, is there, you know, so people could make educated decisions if they had to go somewhere, you know, where they could choose to go to a different grocery store. But they weren't, the province wasn't naming anybody, any town until the frickin' outbreak in the Lodge. And then it was like, La Loche, far north, La Loche, far north. And they were almost acting like, oh, you guys don't worry about, we're still gonna reopen. It's in the far north. Did you know that the far north contains like 50% of the land mass in Saskatchewan, but only like 4% or 5% of the population, which isn't even a true fact, but that's what they were saying. And it's like, why does that make a difference? And I mean, for the people in the far north or the people in the north, like it was just all very ludicrous. And the speed, it was like the speed in which they got the rapid testing trailer up there was like 2 weeks after the outbreak had started. Everything was just like lagging, and I don't know. And then when they put up the roadblocks and then people experiencing like all this discrimination, even in Prince Albert, where they would go down to stay in a hotel, or, you know, if they're for a medical appointment, and they would ask where they're from. They weren't allowed to stay in hotels. They were denied appointments.
Oh my goodness.
Which is not, and then they would blame it on the fact that they were like regulated. Oh, it's health regulations. We can't have you in your appointment because you're from the far north. And it's like, no, that is not regulated. Like, nobody said anything about that. And also, there is a huge difference between Stanley Mission and La Loche, and like, that hasn't been done anywhere else in the province. That's not the behavior anywhere else in the province. When there was an outbreak in Lloydminster, or then there's a blah blah blah, like, I don't know. So it's been it's been interesting to see. Well, and now there's all this talk about systematic racism, which was a very interesting time for it to come, because that came up after.
Correct. Yeah, like the Black Lives Matter movement, and you know, it's compelled people onto the streets, and like I saw your dad and your sister there too, and like, it was a youth-led movement, which I was really inspired about, like through the LGBTQ community here as well. But yeah, that was it's been something, all right. And then I guess more recently we've seen the Hutterite community also getting that spotlight where other communities haven't. There were two Hutterite communities with multiple cases, and they were singled out, and I actually just reposted that and then not even really thinking about it. And as a result of like all this discussion around Hutterite communities, there was this blowback of prejudice and racism, or discrimination, I should say.
Yeah.
But at any rate, it's been an eye-opener. I guess people during a pandemic seem to show their best, and they can also show their worst, you know?
Oh yeah, it's been amazing. So right before, like, when the outbreak in the Lodge had started, it was the day it was declared an outbreak, and I had to go to Prince Albert. It was a Friday night, 7 p.m. and my boyfriend needed rubber boots because he had to like, you know, tromp through the muskeg. He's working at Muskeg Lake, First Nation. And there was nowhere open and he forgot he needed rubber boots. The point is we were in Walmart and I was in Prince Albert and I was just completely shocked at the blatant disregard of, there was no hand sanitizer. There was nobody wiping down carts. There was like, all the staff was super complacent and didn't care. And most of the people that frequent, I mean, I can't say why they were complacent, but that Walmart is one of the biggest super centers that services a lot of the North. It's the most northern big Walmart, you know?
Okay. And
the washrooms were just, I mean, hadn't been thoroughly cleaned in weeks. Anyways, I walked out and I was like, you know, I'm going to go back and take pictures just in case. I don't know. Like, I usually don't get political, you know. I do kind of my work and what I do, and I, you know, work with underserved remote communities and I get grants and I spread music, you know. I don't really make a political statement of like, I'm, you know, rejuvenating music because, you know, these are some of our hardest, you know, some of these communities are having, you know, don't even have clean drinking water. Like we're not very, you know, there's a lot of issues in Saskatchewan and Canada, but I don't make a big statement about it. I just like, you know what, I'm just gonna play music and we're just gonna have fun. We're just like empower people to feel good about themselves, and you know, we'll see, that'll just make the world a little happier. So I just went back to just take pictures because I was like, well, maybe this would be a thing. I don't know. Then I took the pictures, and then as I was walking out, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna ask for the store manager. And I asked for the store manager, and she comes out and she's like, hi. I'm like, hi, I'm just wondering why there's no hand sanitation at the front of the store. And she's like, oh, we don't actually, we can't put it out because we haven't been given orders from Walmart. I'm like, oh, but there's other Walmarts have hand sanitizer. Like, this is the middle of the locked, and now they everywhere, you know, has to. And they're like, no, I don't think there's any other Walmarts I know of. And I'm like, you're the store manager? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I mean, if you want me to, you know, get the public health inspector, should I call them and ask them? And right away she's like, oh no, you don't, you know. And she just got all flustered. And I made one phone call to Walmart in Saskatoon. I was like, hi, do you guys have hand sanitizer? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, okay. So then I called her back and I like put my, like, Steve had his audio recording. So I was like an undercover like reporter, and I got her on tape, and I was like, actually, there is hand sanitizer there. And it seems like you actually just like don't even care about the lives of people that don't think that you need to clean your washrooms or do these things. And so that's when I don't know, just got a little fired up about that. So then and then the face masks, you know, it's like really simple things to just, you know, get face masks to people and try to normalize it. So a lot of things that were happening in the Losh is like people were getting ostracized if they had COVID, or they were getting made fun of for wearing a mask. So I just want to normalize, like, hey, yo, look how cool I am. I'm wearing a mask. Everyone's wearing a mask. So
yeah, tell me about that, because you made that post after the Walmart incident, and then is that what led to your activism around like making masks and like getting it to places like La Loche?
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, I didn't know at that point that that's what I was going to do, but my friend Lori Petroskovich, she's a trauma care counselor in La Loche, actually. And she called me and she saw my post and she said, you know, I don't know what we can do, but I want to do something about normalizing face masks, because, you know, she works in the law. She knows the community really well, and the lives directly affected by it. And she said, maybe we could put music to it, or maybe we could make like a collaboration, or a movement around that. So then we just started, I was like, I can get people to make face masks. Like my mom would sew some. I could, and I said, I bet you if we just ask people. And the response was really overwhelming. And we still have people sewing and making masks and donations coming in. So we just buy fabric and the elastics for people, and then we just mail them to whatever community needs them. And I think now they're talking more about people should be wearing masks. Like everyone should just have a mask. And I heard that there's not a lot of mask wearing going on in Swift Current.
There hasn't been. My mom, God bless her, gave me a mask last night, and my employer at the Welcome Center, she provides masks to us, which is really nice.
Yeah.
But around town, you are ostracized for wearing a mask, or you are like distanced for wearing a mask, because I guess we've always been the most Alberta big city, or larger community, I guess you could call it. We're not a big city, but in Saskatchewan standards. But I don't know what it is. It could be because I think there is a certain macho attitude out there that they can just defeat it by just their sheer bravado or something.
And for a long time, the South had no active cases. So I think that people were like,
well, that's it, eh?
We haven't had an active case since blah, blah, blah. And so like, I was not happy about any new reported cases, but when Regina had a case, like, especially when it was all like far north, I'm like, it's everywhere. It's not just, and then people were kind of insinuating that it was something, when you have COVID, people insinuate that you've done something wrong. And it's like, no, it's everywhere. And like, even, I mean, healthcare workers get it. Healthcare workers get it on their days off, so it doesn't matter. Like, you just have to be really, really, really cautious. And there's kind of this idea, if you're overly cautious, you're like, oh, were you afraid of a little COVID? It's like, yeah, actually, it's cool.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
It's something to be afraid of, all right? Like, there's something because we don't have a vaccine. It doesn't know any borders. They talk about these hot spots, but you look at Alberta, or you look at south of the United States, there's cases of folks from the US saying, we're heading to Alaska. And then they end up, in our parks or through our even Saskatchewan communities. So there's a lot of unease out there still, especially because we haven't seen this so-called second wave yet.
So I have a music festival every year called Doyle Fest, and it raises money for the music programming that I do. So this year, there's probably not going to be a Doyle Fest, but on my land, which is where I'm in my little tiny home out here on the land, I'm making it into a physical distancing campground. Oh. So it can safely house 30 people. And I've got, camper spots and tenting spots and trails and a stage that I have, some Christmas lights up around. And you can have a safe dance party. So I have all these hula hoops, and they're like, put away from each other. And I've been making compostable toilets. So if you are concerned and you want your own toilet, you can have that. But otherwise, we have outhouses with hand sanitizer and a hand washing station. And I just want people to, it is scary. And a lot of my friends some of my friends got really comfortable at home being, away from people, and like, there's a lot. And then they're kind of like, what's easy? My house. I don't even have to leave it because I don't know what's out there. And it's like, wait, we can safely see each other. We can wear masks. We can be 6 feet apart. We can be 10 feet apart. We could even see each other on a walking path. You could just leave the city and come to a walking path and not even have to interact with anybody, but just get out of the city, because a lot of the parks, well, I guess now we're reopening parks at 100% capacity. Anyways, if you don't want to go to a park and or a swimming pool, which apparently is going to be open soon too, just come out to my land. It's right here. It's 40 acres. It's right outside of Saskatoon. So I kind of started developing the campground as a way to help my friends who were kind of going through some stuff, and you know, there's no festivals, you know, that's a big part of like being a musician and being in bands and seeing everybody and connecting with your audience. Well, we can't do that in the same way, but we could come out here. You could have 30 people. We could jam around a fire. We could be placed apart. So yeah, so that's my latest project is what I've been out here and just mowing and finding cool little spots in the trees and like dragging my lawnmower. And
Oh, nice. I was mowing last night and this morning too, finally.
yeah, you should come to my safe physical distancing campground sometime.
Okay. I will. Oh my gosh. Well, I do need to socialize more. But you have also been part of like this online phenomena of like of playing online. So like you've done fast music, you've done the lyrics digital stage. Thank you.
Yeah.
For that. And you've got another one coming up this weekend. It's tell me about the
Rock Against Racism.
Yeah.
My friend Shane organizes this, and every year, I think he does it twice a year at Amigos in Saskatoon, and it's a really big event, and they raise money for a bunch of different things, and they just kind of they've been doing it for I think 5 years, and they just call it Rock Against Racism, and they just get people from all over. And this year it's going to be a little different. It'll be at his place in Prince Albert, and we'll be in the backyard, safely, you know, distanced around, and it'll be live streamed. I think there's 7 or 8 performers, but I actually got asked to be a part of the Canada Day celebration. Like the provincial government of Saskatchewan contacted me, and it's like, it's kind of cool. So I've done a few of those where I set up the video recorder just like this, and I'm like, doodle-doo, couple songs, 3 songs, and like send it in, and I get financial compensation for it, which is like a nice way to you know, have things economically helped out for a musician. So it's been, you know, there's the Cultural Exchange who I work a lot with in Regina. They usually do a workshop tour in the fall, where they go and they put a musician, a theater person, an artist, visual artist, and a storyteller together in a van, and they send them to 22 schools around Saskatchewan, and we put on day workshops in all of these different schools. So I'm working with them trying to figure out how can we provide kind of a culturally art experience for schools, or what that might look like in the fall, because we're not going to be in a van traveling around. So it's a lot of things going digital, and I kind of like, I'll watch digital performances. I'm not in love with them, you know, kind of like me sitting here, and maybe it's because I don't have like a big TV or like fast internet or a computer. Like, I'm always charging my stuff off the solar panels, and it's not like, you know, so I don't know. I'm glad that other people are enjoying them and are having a good experience, and we're just kind of doing what we're doing to kind of get by, but we can interact. Like, that's what I'm saying to like musicians. They can come out to my land and we can play on a stage. It's not going to be the same, but it's kind of nice not having to perform all the time, in a way.
Yeah. Well, this is it. Well, I guess this time has given us a little breathing room to think a little more than.
Yeah, it's nice now. You know, this is the first summer that I haven't, like, I planted a garden this year. I have, like, since, well, what was I, 2015 is when I quit my teaching job in Swift Current, my high school teaching job. So for the past 5 years, I haven't been home for longer than a couple weeks. So it's been, my body feels a lot better, just like not being in a car all the time. And yeah, so I just, you know, try to look at the positives, but I know it's really, 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 really hard for a lot of people. You know, it's been a real struggle, and I'm just kind of watching the climate, you know, in Saskatchewan to see where to fit in, really. Like, it's kind of, when a movement starts, something like Black Lives Matter or Indigenous Lives Matter, I'm kind of just like watching to see where to fit in most adequately, because before, you know, I just kind of do what I'm doing, and I just kind of do it. I don't really heave ho, everybody, let's go. It's just like, hey, look it, we could play music at places, and you could do it too, and we could just love everybody, and everybody's cool, you know. But now where it's great that people even know what the word systematic racism means, or colonization, you know, whether or not, I don't know, people want to believe it happens, which isn't a discussion. Like, white privilege, it's not a discussion. I mean, wait, it is a discussion. It's not a debate. Like, it's not, this is like so many people on social media, and I'm like,
I don't think we've ever elected a person who wasn't white in the last 100 years, like to council, MP, MLA. When you look at land ownership, it's well over 90% white. You know, so like, that's systemic racism right there.
Oh, remember when the casino came to Swift Current? And it was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. What
if there's, you know, and my dad remembers like having to call out people on his hockey team, Old Timers Hockey League, and it was very difficult because it's like lawyers and doctors and like people just telling the odd racist joke here and there, and he's like, you know, or people, you know, before the casino came, people would be calling the cops on the First Nations family, and the police would just be like, what's happening? What are they do? What is there any? They're like, I know, I just don't know. They're probably going to steal something. They're probably going to do this and that. They're probably going to do this and that. And it's like, it's not a debate. Systematic racism or white privilege, we're not debating whether you have it or not. I've had so many discussions when I see a lot of people, actually, like people I graduated with from Swift Current, talking about white privilege and how it's like, I'd work hard for everything I got, and like, you think my life was easy. It's like, that's not what it's about. It's not about whether you worked hard or whether or not you had raised by a single parent, or you probably struggled a lot, but you've never struggled because of your skin color. So they're just like, people aren't understanding, and it's not a debate. So it will be very interesting. I mean, there's lots of things coming out in Saskatchewan. Justice for Jordan, I don't know if you heard on the news today, was a young man who was involved in, I think, and his mother's from Muskeg Lake, which is why I kind of know about it. Steve's been working there, and it was involved in a high speed police chase. And when they got him out of the car, like the car crashed, and so the police got out, and he was kneed in the head 4 times, because they said he was resisting arrest, and then he died the next day. And the autopsy says they don't know whether he died from blunt force trauma to the head. We don't know whether that was because of the high-speed chase, like the car accident he was involved in, or if it was because of the police officer. But today, it was pronounced that the police used too much force. Kneeing somebody in the head 4 times is too much force, I guess. But there's so many stories like that in Saskatchewan that I think will start coming out, and I just want to see where it goes to see how I can support. You know, like I haven't really said anything publicly about it because I know that there's leaders there's people that know a lot more about this than I do, that are very educated and know the system. And I mean, Colton Boushie, that's the nearest reserve to where I am. It's like a half hour, that's 50 kilometers. Where he was murdered is actually 50 kilometers from my cabin as the crow flies. And there's people that live with a lot of injustice who are our neighbors and who are our friends. And I just want to see, you know, and they're very strong leaders and very strong voices. So I just want to see where it goes, and then kind of make connection with people and say, like, how it is, you know, is there any way I could use my voice to help you? Because I just don't feel like I'm, you know, just gonna watch and see what happens.
Those are really important thoughts, like, because that we are this pandemic has collided with all these other issues, and it's been it's you know, it will inevitably change humanity this way forward, or which our culture is shifting quite dramatically right now. So it's, you know, it's important to take note of these changes. Yeah,
for sure.
Eliza, thank you so much for participating. Is there anything else you'd like to add or say?
No, I mean, I look forward to seeing you again, and, like, you know, make your way up here to the safe physical distancing campground, and we'll hopefully see you soon.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me a part of this. It's been really nice.
Thank you. It's so lovely just to chat, and it would be better in person, but this is a nice substitute.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure. Okay, cool.
Awesome. Have a great day.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.